identified those as a hazard to our water source here in the heart of the bay. I took a look at this report, and I've heard from residents in the area and think that this is an issue that certainly we need to understand, and potentially we might like to tackle through advocacy, either by referring it back to our Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force to say, hey, what do you think we should do? Or maybe something else. So that's what this discussion is about. I know we have some community members who would like to participate, and I'd also like to hear your point of view in the commission if there's anything to add.
Mayor, thank you for putting this on the agenda. I do see that Mr. Jimenez is here, and if I'm correct, Mr. Jimenez, you were in County Commission chambers on Friday morning asking the Watershed Management Advisory Board and Durham to do something about this as well. So if I'm correct, I would love to know if you've had an update from Durham, whether you've had a chance to speak to Chair Cohen Higgins' staff about this. Can I engage with him? Yeah.
Absolutely. Mr. Jimenez is an important advocate of water quality on and around Parkview Island, someone that we've had conversations with, and let's incorporate him into the discussion. Welcome, Omar. Can you just, for the record, say your name and your address, and then give us some background?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Omar Jimenez. I'm the founder and president of the Parkview Island Sustainable Association. My address is 7324 Gary Avenue, Miami Beach, Florida, 33141. And thank you, Mayor Latham, commissioners, and the city manager for opening this very important discussion. I did, in fact, speak in front of the Water Management Board last Friday, and they did take my contact information from Ms. Cohen's office, and I did speak with Rashid from Durham also, but unfortunately I haven't received any response from them so far.
When you spoke with Rashid, did he talk to you about Durham's authority to compel Miami Beach to do something? What was the conversation?
Yeah, so there seems to be a couple of different fields of things going on here with the storm gravity conveyance system and the sewer system here in Miami Beach. And so Durham has authority over certain of those things, such as the sewer. However, Miami Beach needs to upgrade its own storm gravity conveyance system. And when both of those mix together, when we have 3 sewer overflows in Parkview Island in less than 1 month in the past month, then that does become a Durham issue. So we're hoping that Durham will be able to create some kind of ordinance that will, keep the city under more control, as per se, and be able to step further into this conversation, because it's already been 3 years that Parkview Island has been under a no contact advisory.
So when you said there were 3 sewer leaks in the last couple of months, in the last couple of weeks, that's sewer.
In the last month.
In the last month. Yeah, that's gross. I'm sorry. So if there are 3 sewer leaks in the last month, and sewer does fall within the regulatory purview of Durham, why can't Durham do something about it? We here in North Bay Village, our sewer system is under the regulatory purview of Durham. And because our sewer system has had a significant amount of inflow and infiltration, we are under a building moratorium in North Bay Village. So I don't understand why there are different rules for North Bay Village as compared to Miami Beach when it comes to the state of the sewer infrastructure.
And you're absolutely right. I really don't understand this either. When I first bought my first home here in the United States on Parkview Island, I did not foresee my life becoming an advocacy campaign over the last 3 years relating to sewerage and storm gravity conveyance systems. I moved here to this island and to Miami Beach because I wanted to recreate in these beautiful waters and be able to enjoy stepping out onto my waterfront dock and being able to not see birds that are suffering from botulism and dying of dehydration. However, unfortunately, that's what it's turned into over the last 3 years. And, It's a large catchment area according to the study that was the results of the study that were released recently. It's a 329 square meter area that dumps gravity stormwater from that entire catchment area into 9 outfalls in the Parkview Canal. And the majority of these outfalls are unprotected. They're wide open for anything to just seep right into the canal. But on top of that, on October 5th of 2022, while the study was ongoing, the city of Miami Beach decided to break ground on a brand new dog park right on the banks of the most polluted canal in possibly all of Miami-Dade County. And we had to intervene at that point and ask the city not to continue with the construction of this park, because firstly, it was going to skew the results of the study, but also it was going to allow a lot more of this bacteria, Enterococcus and E. coli, and possibly botulism to enter these waterways and keep polluting the waterways and affecting our wildlife, native and non-native. It doesn't matter what they are. They're still, falling ill and possibly dying because of these issues. And it's not only the wildlife, but it could be, us next,
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it is the stormwater catch basin and the stormwater drainage that is causing the bulk of the pollution. I understand there's a combination. There's stormwater and there's sewer, and both have a serious impact on water quality in the bay. But you said there is a catchment area where 9 different outfalls flow into this particular area that causes this high concentration of dirty, polluted water. So if it's stormwater, if it's stormwater more so than it's sewer. And Miami Beach, do you know if Miami Beach has its own NPDES permit, or is it a Miami-Dade County co-permittee?
I believe Miami Beach has its own permit, but I can't really confirm that 100%. I do know that the catchment area that we're talking about reaches all the way from Parkview Island to east to Collins Avenue, and from 69th Street to 73rd Street, which is where Parkview Island sits on. So that's a 329 square meter area that dumps all of the water that gathers on the streets, and any possible sewer overflows in that area all flow into the Parkview Island Canal. But just on Parkview Island in the last month, we had 3 confirmed sewer overflows that also flowed into the canal.
We do know that it's a difficult, this is a difficult issue. We're certainly not, it's not easy to solve these legacy issues of stormwater and sewer. But what we are, certainly susceptible to here in North Bay Village is when the bay is polluted around us, we end up with polluted waters as well. There's a much deeper dive here, and I always want to be very careful and respectful. The advocacy work that the Commissioner Strayfeld has done in Miami-Dade County and on the Miami side, helping to get to the bottom of what's going on with our waters from that side has been, illuminatory. We've been able to figure out to a great extent where the issue is coming from and start to work on it. And obviously there's a huge contingent at the county level that's working on these problems. My question, I guess, is, are these resources being brought to bear on this other very salient issue that we have to our east? Commissioner Strayfeld, do you have the feeling that they are? I mean, is there more that can be done? Do we need, to help in advocacy? What can we do?
Thanks for asking. Yeah. And Omar, I was on Zoom on Friday morning, but I was listening to your comments. I heard you ask for more time. I heard all of that. And I want to thank you for bringing this to the attention of our village. And I have a couple more questions. Were you present at the Biscayne Bay Commission meeting this morning?
Unfortunately not. I actually work for a living, so I try my best to volunteer as much time as I can to this cause, obviously, but it just wasn't possible.
Okay. politically, it's not awesome for me to refer you to the enforcement agency. But you might want to reach out to the enforcement agency. So DEP does have enforcement delegated to it by the EPA under the Clean Water Act. And I would be interested to know if you have explored reaching out to DEP. They have a seat on that Biscayne Bay Commission. We had a really productive meeting with the Assistant Secretary for Ecosystems Restoration, who was actually supposed to come here today for a tour of North Bay Village, but he got called into the legislature, so he couldn't spend the afternoon on a boat with us, fortunately for him. But you know, I wonder what kind of interest you might get.
So we actually have reached out to the EPA firstly, a couple of years ago, actually, about a year and a half ago in Atlanta, District 4, I believe. They got back to us after a few months and referred us to the FDEP, Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Their offices, I think, in Boca and West Palm, if I'm not mistaken. And we never received any response. Well, we did get a response from the EPA saying that Miami Beach is under a consent decree. And so, you know, they're virtually responsible for making these upgrades together with the county, right? If I'm not mistaken.
What is the infrastructure improvement plan for the area? Do you know? Like here in North Bay Village, we have this robust capital improvement plan that is going to prioritize water quality. So while, yes, we will be installing pump stations that will pump our stormwater into Biscayne Bay, every single one of those pump stations will have a water polishing component to it. So we will not be pumping dirty water into the bay. We are going to be cleaning it before it falls into the bay. So do you know if your elected officials on the beach and the administration, do they have infrastructure projects planned for your area?
So that's actually one of the main concerns right now in North Beach, because as you're aware, the North Beach Community Redevelopment Agency just opened its door here in North Beach, its office, and they're currently undergoing a bunch of different projects that are going to be built over the next 5 years or so. One of them is right on our doorstep, 72 Park, I believe it's called. And it's going to be a 22-story building just 2 blocks away from the canal banks, the most polluted canal bank. And so we're scared because we don't know where all of this extra infrastructure is going to come from in this space of time that the CRA is also going to be building all of this new town center, which is just a block from Parkview Island. And, you know, we advocated for Parkview Island to be included in the North Beach CRA, but we were told, you know, it's too late. You weren't included in it originally. But if you look at the outline of the boundary, Parkview Island was literally drawn out of that boundary area. The reason, I really don't know, but we do need those infrastructural upgrades. We do need those tanks attached to our pump stations, one of which is right here beside Parkview Island, pump station number 23. It could use, you know, that's one of the recommendations from the study, that 2 additional pumping stations should be added, along with catch basins, vortexes, and a bunch of other racks and different things to catch the first couple of inches of rainwater so that it doesn't seep or fall straight into the canal. It can go into these sediment tanks. The sediment can fall to the bottom, and then the water can be released and create less pollution for our environment and the canal and the residents. But that seems to be in the long term for the city of Miami Beach. They're saying that in the short term, they have a plan to start relining the sewer pipes here on Parkview Island and nearby communities. But a lot of the residents are saying that this is not what we need. We need the 9 outfalls that are pouring all of this stormwater into the Parkview Canal redirected or, you know, pumped somewhere else so that we can stop this issue.
Okay. I really appreciate your time and your dedication and advocacy on this. It's really inspiring. I hope you feel heard. I certainly want to have my own meetings with elected officials in Miami Beach that I have relationships with, because I want to better understand what they are doing. I want to hear from them what the planned projects are. I do think that as the heart of the Bay, and as having a seat on the Watershed Management Board, we absolutely have a platform and a compelling purpose to be engaged in this conversation. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to follow up with, not to give you the same line, but I would like to follow up with you directly, not just to defer a meaningful response, but to ensure there is a meaningful response. So if that's acceptable to you, I really would like to follow up, but I also would like to have some conversations with the city of Miami Beach to understand what their plan is.
We're really grateful for you discussing this in the first place. But speaking about inspiration, I was present at the Biscayne Bay Summit last year in FIU, and I did see your panel also. And that was also very inspirational. So it's advocates like you and other local organizations that propel me to do this in our own area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar.
Thanks, Omar. I think, the intention wasn't to put this on your plate, your very large plate. But it is to have a discussion about, this very important issue to North Bay Village, and I want to definitely bring it back to how this relates to North Bay Village. I mean, I can hear you, speaking about Miami Beach and their responsibilities, and that's part of the equation. Our goal here is obviously to help our greater constituents like Omar, who's a constituent in the sense, and Omar had mentioned this to a colleague the other day in talking about this. The water, of course, doesn't know municipal boundaries. And you're our constituent in the sense that we share the same watershed and we share the same waters. Just like you would like to swim in clean waters. It's very important to us, to our kids, to our constituents, to everyone around North Bay Village, the heart of the Bay, to have clean waters. And so this is just a part of that. Any grain of sand that we can throw in to make that happen, we will do that to the extent that it's possible.
Mayor, the same way that we identified the canals on the west of us as being problematic to our immediate offshore waters, and it was your idea to gather mayors together to raise the profile of this issue, and we had that meeting, and the faces around the table lit up with interest and engagement because they genuinely wanted to do something to help and simply weren't aware of this issue. And so through that dialogue, I think over time, we will be able to make an impact, because those canals on the west side of us carry water from 12 different municipalities into our immediate offshore waters. To the east of us, it's one municipality. It's one municipality, and the water that runs through the Parkview Canal, past Normandy into our immediate offshore waters, that's one municipality. So we can use the exact same justification that we had for calling together the coastal mayors to go directly to our immediate neighbor, Miami Beach, and say, hey guys, we want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think, having heard what we've heard now from Omar, that certainly I'd like to understand the level of prioritization of fixing this issue, because again, it is an issue that's directly affecting us on a regular basis here in North Bay Village. So I think we have as good an action plan as we'll come up with tonight. Omar, thank you very much for informing us. Thank you for your advocacy and your time on this. And you know where to find us. Let's continue the conversation to work together with all of the stakeholders to help improve this situation.
Thank you all. Thank you all for doing such a great job for our environment. And we love North Bay Village. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. And Mayor Latham, thank you for putting this on the agenda.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Bringing it back to North Bay Village, is there anything we can do now? So I'm talking about the near future, the immediate near future, to help us and help them.
I think we just did it.
We're definitely alarmed. There's one thing that came up in the course of my conversations with this, and it's water quality monitoring, and it always seems to come back to that. And I can't tell you how many times, almost on a daily basis or more than daily, I refer to the Miley Waterkeeper water quality monitoring that they